Hello everyone, today I will continue the story about the single mother Diệu Hân. I hope you enjoy the video. While Tan was sitting thoughtfully at his usual cafe, the soft light from the desk lamps illuminated the old wooden table, surrounded by a peaceful atmosphere with cool breezes coming through the window. The gentle music playing from the speakers added to the calmness of the space. Tan hadn't realized how much time had passed. His mind wandered, tangled in thoughts about Han. Every time he saw Han, he could feel her gentleness and care. However, sometimes these actions seemed like simple friendly concern, while other times they might indicate something deeper, but he couldn't quite figure it out. Tan wondered if he should confess all his feelings to Han, or if he should just remain silent and let everything unfold naturally. He didn't want to put any pressure on her, nor did he want to make her feel awkward in their relationship. Yet, his heart raced every time he thought of her, and these feelings became stronger with each passing day. Suddenly, Tana's phone buzzed, the sound breaking his train of thought. At first, he intended to quickly check the message, but when he looked at the screen, he realized it was a message from Long, an old friend he hadn't seen in a long time. Long wrote, "I think this idea is quite good, Tan. Don't miss out on this opportunity. I'm working on a new project that might be a perfect fit for your skills." Tan smiled as he read the message, a sense of nostalgia rising in his heart for the days when he and Long were classmates. They had once dreamed of starting a business together, creating big projects. But life wasn't easy, and those plans had slowly faded away over time. Tan sighed, but couldn't deny that there was still a glimmer of hope in his heart for this new opportunity. Should I try again? Tan wondered. Although his current job was stable, he couldn't deny that a part of him yearned for something new, an opportunity to test himself, to break free from the daily routine. He felt that this opportunity could be a turning point in his life. The call with Long ended, but Tana's mind was still spinning. Would this change bring him a new chance to understand Han better? Could he find the answer to his feelings? Or was this just an escape from the thoughts and emotions he couldn't resolve? He realized that this might be an opportunity not only to change his career but also to change his perspective on life, love, and what he truly wanted in the future. Tan stood up, leaving the cafe with a new decision in his heart. He could no longer just think and worry, because sometimes, only by stepping out of your comfort zone can you find the answers. He would join Long's project, not only to test himself but also to refresh his life. And perhaps in this journey, he would find a way to express his true feelings for Han, when everything became clearer, and when he was more confident in himself and what he could achieve. In the end, Tan realized that it wasn't just about work or love. It was about having the courage to face and accept everything. And perhaps these challenges would be the opportunity for him to become the person Han truly deserved in her life. Tan began the new project with all his enthusiasm and hope. Every morning he woke up with a sense of excitement, a positive spirit, and full determination. Together with Long, he made detailed plans, assigned tasks, and started taking the first steps. Although there were many challenges and difficulties, Tan never backed down. He spent a lot of time researching the market, building strategies, and constantly seeking opportunities to develop the project. The feeling of being in control of something significant made him feel that life had more meaning and a clearer destination than ever before. With each small progress, Tan became more confident. He could feel the difference from the days of dreaming about work in the past. Now he was actually taking action. Every piece of the project gradually came together, and the long nights of hard work were no longer burdensome, but a joy when he saw the results of his efforts. Despite being busy, Tan still made time to share his progress with Han. Every time they met, he couldn't contain his excitement, telling her about the small achievements in the project. From signing contracts with partners to the creative ideas he and Long had discussed. Han always listened attentively with a smile of encouragement. She wasn't just a companion in his stories, but someone who deeply understood and supported him from the heart. "Han, I just signed a contract with a big partner. This project will help us grow stronger," Tan said during one of their meetings, his eyes gleaming with joy. "I feel this is a huge turning point, not just for the company, but for myself as well." Han smiled gently, her eyes filled with support. "I knew you could do it, Tan. You have the ability, and your passion will lead everything to success. I believe in you." Han's words were a powerful source of encouragement for Tan. Every time he met her, He felt her sincerity and absolute support for him. Han didn't just listen to him talk about work. She also offered valuable advice and ideas that Tan always cherished. To him, Han wasn't just a close friend but also an inspiration, someone who helped him maintain faith in the path he had chosen. The conversations with Han always made Tan feel lighter, no matter how busy his work was. She always knew how to create a comfortable space for him to share everything. The feeling when she listened and understood him made him realize that work and projects weren't the only important things in life. There was also friendship, care, and precious relationships. Every time Han reminded him about the importance of maintaining close relationships, he felt his soul lightened. With each passing day, Tana's project grew stronger. He and Long received positive feedback from their partners, clear signs that their work was heading in the right direction. Tan felt himself maturing, not just professionally, but also in his thoughts and emotions. He realized that each step in this project was not only an achievement, but also an opportunity to understand himself better and to know what he truly wanted to achieve in life. And every time he met Han, Tan felt that, alongside his professional successes, the moments shared with her were just as important. His stories about the project, the small yet meaningful achievements, were always met with Han's enthusiasm and optimism. In Tana's heart, Han wasn't just a companion. She had become an important part of this journey. He knew that if he could share this joy with her, he would be even more confident on the path he had chosen. Han looked at Tan with admiration. She could clearly feel the effort and determination he was putting into the new project. Every time she saw Tan working passionately, she couldn't help but smile, feeling proud of him. In the quiet moments, Han always thought about Tan, about the times he shared with her about the project and the hopes he had invested in it. His stories always motivated her in her own work. Han wasn't just a companion. Gradually, she had become an important part of Tana's life. She always made time to encourage and support him, and when she saw Tan happily sharing his successes, she felt happy for him. Even though her own work was full of challenges, every time she thought of Tan and his efforts, she felt motivated to keep pushing forward every day. Han was not only diligent in her work, but she also poured her heart into ensuring that Tom, the child she was caring for, would have a better, more fulfilling future. She dreamed of a day when Tom would have everything needed to grow and be happy. Despite being very busy with the project, Tom never forgot to share his progress with Han. He knew that in moments of anxiety and tension, her words of encouragement were the thing that soothed his nerves. However, after 2 promising months, things began to show signs of trouble. The project that Tan had invested so much time, effort, and money into started to face serious issues. The financial reports were disappointing. Some partners suddenly became unreachable, and a few sub-projects began to be delayed. Tan started to feel uneasy with worries flooding in. He couldn't stop thinking about the funds he had invested in the project and the decisions he had made. A sense of unease grew in his heart. Tan tried to keep his emotions in check, but the worries couldn't be extinguished. He called Long, his close friend, to discuss the current situation, but after several calls, no one picked up. At first, Tan thought maybe Long was busy or dealing with personal matters. However, when the 3rd call also went unanswered, he began to truly feel worried. The unease was not just because the project was facing issues, but also because of the absence of the trusted friend he had relied on all this time. He sat down at his desk, reflecting on everything that had happened. This project was all he had invested in, and facing such big challenges truly made him feel cornered. He didn't even know what he would do if things couldn't be salvaged. Tan began to feel the pressure, not just from work but also from his financial future. He had invested a significant amount of money into this project, and now if everything failed, it would not only affect him but also potentially impact those around him, especially Han. He didn't want Han to worry about him, but a part of him couldn't hide the anxiety he was feeling. At that moment, Tan decided he couldn't sit still and wait. He was determined to get to the bottom of everything, no matter how difficult it might be. He couldn't let his anxiety take over, and if things had come to this point, he would have to face them and find a way to fix things. Tan took a deep breath, regained his composure, and set to work on solving the problems, knowing that the road ahead would not be easy. The feeling of unease was still there, but Tan knew that in order to move forward, he had to face everything, and he hoped that everything would work out in the end. That afternoon, Tan, as usual, arrived at the office to address the issues arising from the project. His mood was heavy, weighed down by concerns about the financial situation and work. He had planned to meet with partners, review reports, and find ways to resolve the current situation. However, as soon as he stepped into his office, he sensed something unusual in the air. The employees in the office quietly watched him, none daring to say a word. Suddenly, the office door opened, and two uniformed officers entered. Tan froze, his mind beginning to go blank. One of the police officers walked up to him and said, "Mr. Tan, we have an arrest warrant for you. You are suspected of tax evasion and supplying products of unclear origin. Please cooperate as we proceed with the next steps." Tan stood motionless, unable to believe what he had just heard. It felt as if he had been struck on the head, a sense of confusion and unease flooding him. Tax evasion? Supplying products of unclear origin? How could that be? He couldn't understand what was happening. The sound of the officer's footsteps echoed in the silent office. A feeling of helplessness engulfed Tan. He never imagined he would find himself caught in such a situation. Everything suddenly turned chaotic. Unanswered questions raced through his mind. How could he be implicated in such serious charges? What had he done wrong? Tan tried to remain calm and asked again, "Officers, is there some mistake? I don't understand what's going on. What did I do wrong?" The officer responded firmly, "We have enough evidence to charge you. Please come with us to the station." Everything around Tan seemed to blur. He felt as though he were being swept into a whirlwind, unable to stop it. As he was taken outside and put into the police car, the only thought running through his mind was, could it be Long? Could it be my friend? He couldn't believe that his close friend, the one he had trusted and started the project with, could betray and deceive him like this. Over the past months, Tan had poured all his effort into the project, dedicating himself to his work to build his career, thinking that a bright future awaited. But now everything had suddenly collapsed. He couldn't believe that while he was working hard, someone behind his back was plotting to deceive him, leading him down the wrong path. Remembering the times he had met with Long, the encouragement, the plans Long had made for the project, Tan felt even more hurt. He never imagined that someone he had considered a close friend, a companion in life, could deceive him so thoroughly. When Tan was brought to the police station, a wave of disappointment and confusion overwhelmed him. He felt as if everything he had built over the past time had been a lie. The sense of loss wasn't just about the money, but also about the trust that had been shattered. Sitting in the holding cell, Tan could only ask himself, where did I go wrong? How could I not see the truth? What should I do next? Everything seemed unclear, and he felt as if he was standing at a crossroads in his life. But at that moment, Tan also realized that if he didn't find a way to resolve this, not only would he be affected, but also those around him. He couldn't let everything fall apart like this. Tan knew that, despite everything seeming to be against him, he had to fight to uncover the truth and restore justice. Han received the news of Tana's arrest just as she finished a workday at the company. Her colleague's words hit her like a huge shock. She stood frozen, unable to believe what she had just heard, a sense of confusion rising in her heart. Tan was arrested for tax evasion and supplying products of unclear origin? How could that be? She knew Tana's character well. He was hardworking, dedicated to his work, and never did anything wrong. Han couldn't imagine that Tan had committed such a serious crime. She couldn't sit still, filled with worry and unease. Han didn't believe the accusations, but if she didn't uncover the truth, Tan would never be cleared of the charges. She knew everything could only be made clear if someone stood up to clarify the situation. And at this moment, the only person who could help Tan was Long, the friend Tan had trusted and entrusted part of the work to. Han immediately began trying to trace Long's whereabouts. She tried every possible way to contact him, but Long had also disappeared without a trace. She couldn't understand why Long had suddenly vanished when everything was so chaotic. How could Long abandon Tan at a time like this? Han couldn't let things unfold like this. She had to find Long. She needed evidence to prove Tana's innocence. In the following days, Han began gathering information about Long, asking their mutual friends, contacting the partners that Tan and Long had worked with. She even went to Long's house, but no one knew where he had gone. Everywhere she went, everyone she asked didn't have any answers, which only made her more anxious. But she didn't give up. Every time she thought about Tan suffering in a detention cell, her heart ached. She even tried to reach out to connections she knew might help in tracking Long's whereabouts, including some people in the business world who had previously worked with Tan and Long. Though they couldn't provide much information, Han didn't give up on any clue. She began to feel as though she was being pulled into a dangerous investigation, but her trust in Tan wouldn't let her stop. One day, while she was sitting in a cafe, a former friend of Long suddenly called her. She hurriedly answered the phone, hearing a somewhat unfamiliar but familiar-sounding male voice. The man said that he knew Long had been involved in some suspicious dealings recently, though he didn't know exactly what those meetings were about. He only knew that Long had left the city a week ago, and that the friend had no idea where Long had gone. This made Han even more suspicious that Long was intentionally avoiding everyone. Not willing to stop, Han began seeking out people who had past dealings with Long, hoping to find an important clue. One afternoon, as she was talking to one of them, this person unexpectedly revealed a valuable piece of information: that Long had met with a major partner before he disappeared, and perhaps that was where things had started to go wrong. Han decided to follow this lead. She had no other choice but to continue searching and place her trust in the truth. Every step she took, though tiring and filled with setbacks, was for one goal: to clear Tan of the wrongful accusations and restore his name. On the long nights, Han couldn't stop thinking about what had happened, about the stories Tan had shared with her. She became even more convinced in him that everything couldn't just end like this. Tan couldn't be the bad guy, it was impossible. Han knew that if she didn't do anything, if she didn't persist in uncovering the truth, Tan would never have a chance to be exonerated. And that belief gave her strength in this arduous journey. She would not give up until everything was made clear. In the past few days, Han had not had a single moment of rest. She was always busy with work at the company, but in her heart, she couldn't stop thinking about Tan and the challenges he was facing. Despite her best efforts, even reaching out to Long's old contacts, she still had no information about where he might have disappeared to. Her calls and meetings brought no results. It was as if Long had vanished from the world, and Han couldn't help but feel worried. She wondered, was Long intentionally avoiding everyone, or had he been caught up in some scheme that she couldn't see? However, no matter how difficult things got, Han didn't give up. She understood that without finding Long, Tan wouldn't be exonerated, and if she couldn't find him, all of Tana's efforts would be in vain. He would remain trapped in the cycle of baseless accusations. In her heart, her belief in Tan was as firm as a rock. She knew that he couldn't have done the wrongs he was accused of, and she would do everything she could to help him overcome this trial. One day, while she was sitting quietly at a cafe, a thought suddenly flashed in her mind. Dan, her close friend, a former police officer, could be the one to help her track down Long. Han knew that with his experience and connections in the field, Dan would have leads she couldn't uncover on her own. Without hesitation, Han called Dan, told him about the current situation, and asked for his help. Dan readily agreed. He knew Han was a dedicated and trustworthy person, and he understood that helping her wasn't just about saving Tan, but also about uncovering the truth. Dan promised to use all his resources to find Long, even though it might be difficult. Han thanked him and continued to wait for news. At the same time, Han couldn't ignore Tana's mother, who was suffering from the pain of hearing that her son had been arrested. Since receiving the news of her son's arrest, she had been mentally broken down and fell ill. Tana's mother could hardly accept the fact that her son was accused of such serious crimes. She had always believed that Tan was a good person, a dutiful and caring son, and now she was facing a great shock. Han knew that Tana's mother needed comfort and support. She spent time every day visiting her, helping her through the pain. Han gently sat by her side, holding her hand, and softly said, "Me, Tan, I understand the worry and pain you're going through, but I believe Tan hasn't done anything wrong. Everything will be fine, please don't worry too much." Han not only encouraged Tana's mother, but also helped her take care of her health, taking her to doctor's appointments, ensuring she didn't become too weak. Even though she couldn't change the current reality, Han hoped that her comforting words would ease some of her worries and give her the strength to face the challenges ahead. Every time Han visited Tana's mother, She felt a heavy sense of responsibility. She not only had to help Ton but also ensure that his family wouldn't fall apart. When Tana's mother looked into her eyes, it seemed as though she recognized the strength and belief Han had in her son. This made Han feel relieved, because at least she knew that Tana's mother didn't feel alone in this fight. With relentless effort, Han was determined not to give up. She believed that if she persisted, one day she would uncover the truth. She wouldn't let Ton suffer unjustly for long, and she wouldn't let his mother continue to live in pain. With each passing day, Han held on to her belief and hoped that a light would appear, helping her solve everything and bring justice to Ton. Can Han clear Tana's name, or will he have to endure a life of imprisonment? What will Han do to help him? Stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you everyone for watching the video until the end.
Xin chào mọi người, lại là mình đây. Rất vui được gặp lại mọi người trong video của mình. Chúc mọi người một ngày vui vẻ và hạnh phúc. Vậy là hành trình của người mẹ đơn thân Diệu Hân càng ngày càng dài. Trong tình yêu hay trong cuộc sống, Hân đều phải đối mặt với những lựa chọn khó khăn. Liệu Hân sẽ phải lựa chọn như thế nào? Mời mọi người đón xem ở những video tiếp theo nha. Hy vọng những video của mình về câu chuyện người mẹ đơn thân Diệu Hân sẽ mang đến niềm vui cho mọi người. Nếu mọi người thấy hay và hấp dẫn, nhớ để lại cho mình một nhận xét ở dưới phần bình luận để những video mới mình làm sẽ cải tiến tốt hơn và có nhiều ý nghĩa hơn. Mọi người nhớ like, share, bật chuông thông báo để nhận thông báo khi mình đăng video mới nhất nha. Và nhớ theo dõi kênh của mình thường xuyên để kênh của mình phát triển hơn và có nhiều video hay hơn. Cảm ơn mọi người đã xem hết video của mình nha.